Next on the agenda, measuring the success of a $3 billion laboratory of innovation, a CMAA-sponsored case study of a joint project by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation and Cavill Enterprises. They had a unique opportunity to measure the effectiveness of an accelerated bridge program designed to improve the efficiency of infrastructure improvement projects. Here to share the results of the case study, please welcome Victoria Sheehan, Manager of Strategic Planning and Highway Performance for MassDOT.
Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of Massachusetts Department of Transportation, welcome to Massachusetts, welcome to Boston. I hope you've enjoyed your first few days here in the city and have had a chance to experience a little of what Boston has to offer. And more importantly, are ready to enjoy what the CII National Conference has to offer with the very exciting program we have ahead of us. As the introduction said, I am the program manager for the Massachusetts Accelerated Bridge Program. This was a program established in 2008 in response to a tragic event in Minnesota. With the collapse of the I-35 bridge over the Mississippi River, many DOTs were forced to look at the condition of their bridge infrastructure and work with their legislature to identify additional funding to address this backlog of deficient bridges. In Massachusetts, we were given the opportunity to spend $3 billion specifically on improving the condition of bridges, but that funding came with some strings attached. As you heard this morning, Massachusetts hosted one of the largest mega projects undertaken in the country, the Central Artery Tunnel Project, the Big Dig, a project that was of much benefit to the city of Boston, brought a lot of economic growth and mitigated congestion throughout the city, but a project that was plagued with cost overruns and schedule delays. When the Accelerated Bridge Program began, the legislature felt strongly that we needed to put in place more robust project controls to ensure that the sins of the past were not repeated. Specifically within the legislation, it was required that we establish a project controls unit. I head up that unit, supported by consultants, Cavill Enterprises, who will be presenting with me today. The project controls unit ensures that the projects are delivered on budget, on time, without sacrificing quality or safety. As we initiated the program, of course, we turned to the industry best practices, and after looking at some of the federal guidelines and federal material, we made a conscious effort to incorporate the CII best practices. Our presentation today is sponsored by CMAA, and Massachusetts is pleased to say that we have become an adopter of the CII best practices and a CMAA best practitioner. Throughout our presentation, we'll be highlighting how these different CII best practices have led to the success of the Accelerated Bridge Program. To give you a little bit of the context, the program, as I said before, is a $3 billion investment specifically in improving bridge condition. There are 200 projects associated with the program that vary in size and scale, from $1 million preservation projects to projects worth over $100 million. And we have 5 major projects associated with the program that combined have a value of $1 billion. So as we talk about the CII best practices, we will help highlight how we have adopted those principles and modified our tools to ensure that we're able to manage projects of a variety of sizes and scales. While our program is primarily a bridge program, improving bridge condition, this particular program was initiated in 2008 during the economic downturn. So we were further challenged to complete projects faster than ever before. Our task was to get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible, and then to shorten construction duration. There was 2 reasons for this. One, we wanted to stimulate the economy and put people to work, but we also wanted to focus on our customers. For the first time ever, MassDOT was asked to really compress construction schedules, take projects that traditionally were 3 or 4 years in duration and shrink those down to 1 season or 2 seasons, so we could reduce the impact of projects on the traveling public. The hope was that in doing this, we would complete projects sooner and save money, but most importantly, that we would demonstrate that we are a new DOT using innovation and being more efficient with the taxpayer dollars. We also had to provide access and opportunity on the part of minority and women-owned businesses, and in everything that we did, we had to show transparency and accountability. And the Project Controls Unit was asked to report to an oversight council appointed by the legislature to ensure that we had that transparency. So in our presentation today, we'll talk about the various projects associated with the program, and more specifically, the tools that we have used to manage them. MassDOT has become a leader in accelerated bridge construction. Since the program started, we have undertaken a number of projects, expanding the use of precast elements, but also embracing accelerated bridge construction techniques such as heavy lift and prefabricated bridge units. Our goal is to, as I said before, minimize the impact of our projects on the traveling public, but most importantly, we are increasing safety by taking a lot of the work out of the travelway, working offline, prefabricating as much of the bridge as we can, and then in a matter of hours, closing down the roadway to traffic and moving those new pieces into place. So throughout our presentation, we'll talk about the techniques. We'll also, as I said before, talk about the best practices. In the area of front-end planning, we have developed a lot of tools at MassDOT, jumping off from the wonderful materials made available by CII. And today we'll go through a number of the different initiatives that we pursued to manage these projects. Constructability has also been a real focus for us. Implementing these new accelerated bridge techniques has meant that we really have to think through constructability issues. These techniques are new to the DOT, are new to our designers and our contractors, so we had to make sure that we were doing enough prior planning to mitigate risk. Most importantly, we're going to talk about our signature project, the 93 Fast 14. This particular project, as the name suggests, replaced 14 bridges in just 10 weekends in the summer of 2011. We had a deck failure on one of our bridges on I-93 in Medford. I-93 is a community just north of Boston, about 5 miles from the city center. And as you can appreciate, deck failure during rush hour caused significant delays. Immediately, we recognized that we had to replace a number of the structures in this location. And as I said before, we were able to replace the bridges very quickly. This project gained a lot of national attention and has been identified as one of the most aggressive accelerated bridge projects ever undertaken by Federal Highway. And I have a short clip to show that.
One of the program's earliest projects is called Fast 14. 14 because 14 bridges were involved in the project, and fast because its goal was to cut construction time from 4 or 5 years to 1. During the summer of 2011, MassDOT replaced all 14 deteriorated bridge superstructures on a section of I-93 without impacting weekday rush hour traffic. How? By using innovative techniques and construction practices that allowed them to replace the actual bridge superstructures on the weekends. The original bridges were built roughly 60 years ago, back in the glory days of constructing the interstate system. But by 2010, they had reached the end of their service lives, with deteriorating concrete on the bridge decks and the steel beams under those decks in need of significant repair. At this point, it was obvious that a major effort was needed, one that would not only repair the bridges, but do it in a way that would minimize disruptions for the nearly 180,000 vehicles that travel I-93.
So the Accelerated Bridge Program has achieved a lot in the last few years. The program was started in 2008 and will complete in 2016. So we're currently in year 7, and at a point where we'll be able to really assess some of the practices that we implemented. This particular graphic shows you where the SD number was in Massachusetts. That's the number of structurally deficient bridges. When the program started, we had 543 deficient bridges. When you consider that we have 5,000 bridges in the state, that's a fairly high percentage. And without this program, it was estimated the number would grow to around 700 by 2016. Our goal is to be at 450 by the end of the program. And if you come to our session, you'll hear how we're doing. More importantly, we, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, had a very poor track record in terms of on-time and on-budget delivery in Massachusetts. Before the ABP began, our average for on-budget completion was rather low, but since ABP has been implemented and the CII best practices adopted, we have seen an improvement from 26.5% to 68%. This is not rebaselined. For on time, we've seen similar results. Once again, our performance prior to the ABP was certainly not to customer expectations. And since the ABP has been implemented, we've seen a significant improvement, again going from 22.5% to 64.8%. So please come to our session. We will be in the Wellesley conference room on the 3rd floor at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. And we hope that you will join us. Thank you very much.